Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, from wherever you're watching around the world. My name is Brian Galicia. I lead our global ISV independent software vendor business at Microsoft. It's my honor and pleasure to be joined by Tom Patterson from Flintfox. Welcome, Tom.
Hey, Brian, how are you?
I'm doing very well. Well, thank you so much for joining. So before we get started, wanted to just give an opportunity for everyone, get a little orientation to these live events that we do. So we do this every Monday at 8 a.m. And the purpose of these is really to give people watching insight into our Microsoft Dynamics 365 partner ecosystem, things that are happening, updates about the product, but also we have amazing global independent software vendors and partners like Tom at Flintfox that come in and share a point of view about what they do and the outcomes they serve and drive with our end customer. So as you're watching this video, if you could either enter one of the comments or enter a comment in the LinkedIn feed to say, hey, where you're watching from, or anytime during this conversation, if you actually have a question that you'd actually like to ask Tom, please put it in the comment window and I'll actually service that up. And so just to get started, if you can actually type in where you're watching from anywhere around the world, we'd love to kind of do a quick shout out during this pre-introduction and give you an opportunity to say hello. So Tom, let's get started with you. Give a little background of yourself, and then one thing that doesn't exist on your LinkedIn profile that you'd like people who are watching to get some insight on you specifically.
Sure, Brian. So I'm our Chief Commercial Officer and President at Flintfox. So I'm responsible for our sales, go-to-market, and delivery business worldwide. So I manage our 4 regions of the North American region, Latin America, EMEA, and Asia Pacific. And I've been in the role here for about 7 years at Flintfox. So just started my 7th year. I've been in the Microsoft ecosystem since 1993, so a long, long time. And involved, across the board really with Microsoft that whole time. So it's been a great journey. I've had a lot of fun. I really, really enjoy it. I get to meet a lot of really great people from the Microsoft team as well as from our customers and our partners. And probably the one thing that's not on my LinkedIn profile is I play tennis as much as possible. And I've done that my entire life. So I really enjoyed it. I got heavily involved in it when I was in high school, played as a junior, then played in high school and college, and have kind of kept that up over the years. So I really enjoy it, spend a lot of time on it. And LinkedIn in general, we're taking an initiative internally at Flintfox to really expand what we do on LinkedIn, particularly with our executive team. We feel like we've got a lot of knowledge that we're not getting out there. So I've had our marketing team, corporate marketing team, working on putting a program together to get our team more visible and more active on LinkedIn. So we'll see how that works in the coming weeks.
Oh, that's great, Tom. As many of you who may know me, I'm a huge advocate and I love seeing partners drive more engagement. And I guess one thing, to go back to your tennis comment, Tom, that's one thing, of course, another new thing I learned about yourself. Have you been to any of the major tennis venues, either the grass courts in Wimbledon, Australian Open, maybe the French clay courts, or even the US Open? Have you been to any of the major tours?
Oh yeah, I've been to all of them multiple times.
Oh, of course.
Because this last year is the first time I really didn't go, and I did go to the Australian Open. That was one of the places I was early last year before COVID really locked everything down. But yes, I've been to all those multiple times.
Oh, good. Well, geez, you're above me. The only one I've actually been to is Wimbledon, so I definitely have to follow your lead and go to the other major ones. So thanks for sharing that, and thanks for the people who chimed in and said where they're watching from. So we actually have Jim, who's actually from the same area you are. So in case you didn't know, Tom's actually from Colorado, in a city just south of Denver, Colorado. And then Lily, it's great to see you. It's been someone that I actually used to work when I was in the field selling organization. This is someone I got to know because she worked for one of my customers that was in Spokane, Washington. So if you see here, Tom, maybe something as we get through our conversation, she actually is asking, hey, I would love to learn more about Flintfox's offerings for Dynamics 365 Business Central in the cloud. So let's definitely talk about that through the dialogue, and hopefully, Lily, as you hear the conversation between Tom and I, definitely, if there's more questions you may have, feel free to continue to put that in the comment window, and we'll address them. So why don't we give a little bit of background, Tom, on what is Flint? Of course, I know Flintfox super well. Like we were talking in the pre-show of how long Flintfox has been in the ecosystem, which is amazing. But for those of you who've never heard of, for those watching who've never heard of Flintfox, why don't you just provide a commentary as to what does Flintfox do, and then what are the outcomes that Flintfox plus Microsoft help to drive and solve together in the many customers that we serve?
Sure, no, Brian, sounds good. So what we do in the Microsoft ecosystem is a couple of things. So we function as a global system integrator. So we help sell and implement Dynamics 365, finance, supply chain, commerce, human resources, sales, customer service, marketing, field service. So we work with the full Dynamics 365 stack as well as Power Platform. Also, we do some work with Azure and Modern Workplace. So we're very engaged from a system integrator standpoint with our customers. And then we also build really incredible IP to help supply chain companies. And it's focused around pricing, rebate management, chargebacks, deductions. It's really all aimed at helping customers better manage their margins going forward or improve their operating margins. And that IP runs within Dynamics 365, or we have the option for it to run within Azure. So a customer can get the Azure version, and if they're running multiple ERP systems, they can actually use that version to connect to Dynamics, SAP, Oracle, Infor, Epicor. So really any ERP platform, we can connect to it using an API. And same thing with CRM systems and e-commerce systems. So the whole point of that offering is to be able to provide pricing and rebate functionality to multiple systems.
That's great, Tom. So why don't you describe most people know what trade promotion management is and the rebate systems, but for those who are watching or maybe new to what are some of the things that Flintfox does to address that kind of challenge in retail, especially retail scenarios or manufacturing scenarios, to kind of continue on your on the intro, the great intro and the introduction you talked about with Flintfox and what you guys do?
Yeah, so we work very closely with retail companies, with wholesale distributors, manufacturers, and it revolves a lot around rebates and a lot around pricing. So in rebates, really what we're doing is we're trying to help companies proactively manage their rebates. So maybe I'll give you the example of where they're buying products from a supplier and selling them to an end customer. Typically, the company then can claim rebates back from the supplier, the manufacturer that they're getting those from. And what we do is we help them do that accurately, and we help them do it proactively. So a lot of companies, they'll do that once a quarter or once a year, and they're heavily reliant on the manufacturer to give them that data. We actually give them that data where they're calculating it in their system. They know it at the point that they're making a sale or doing a transaction. So they're able to proactively calculate those rebates, go back and claim those from the manufacturer. So that works well for them in a couple of ways. So one, they're actually doing the data, calculating it. They're not relying on someone else, but they can also move up the billing where they're going and collecting these rebates on a monthly basis as opposed to waiting to quarterly or annually. It allows them to get out in front of it and improve their cash flow to get the rebates in sooner. And rebates can be very complex the way it is today. You can have a single rebate or you can have multiple rebates that work together. And when you're selling products, you need to be able to take that into account so that when you're selling to the end user, you're stacking those rebates, so to speak, together so that you know what your true cost is when you're selling a product, so you can be as competitive as possible to win the business, but also at the same time to protect your operating margin on it. And on the pricing side, what we're really doing is we're trying to help companies that have complex pricing scenarios. So if you think about your companies that you shop online with, a lot of times the retailers, they have one price and it's the same price for everyone. But if you get into a lot of business to business scenarios, they have contracts with the companies that they sell to, and that price may vary based on a number of multiples. How many do we buy per order? How many do we buy per year? Or Is there special promotion going on? So we deal with those kind of things on the pricing side, which again can get very complex. And we've got customers that may have 500,000 clients that they sell to, and there might be 10 or 15 pricing scenarios on each SKU for each of those companies. So we do a lot of calculations, and it has to be really, really fast because, again, if you're on the website and you log into a website, you go pick an item and you want to buy that item, you want the price to come up really quickly. You don't want to sit there and wait for the page to load 7 or 8 seconds before you get that. So we help them optimize that so that it's very close to what a retail experience is online.
No, that's great, Tom. It reminds me back in the day, because I'm sure people watching the phone can relate to this. Either when I bought tires or have bought like my electric toothbrush, you get a rebate form and have to do all these things. It's amazing because over the years of period, and I'm not sure if those companies use Flintfox behind the scenes, but that example that you described, Tom, is a perfect example of what happens even in our day-to-day lives. And I can imagine that some of the examples that you've seen in the outcomes or typically these customers using manual processes to kind of track that type of stuff. Excel spreadsheets, that's probably most, at least
Excel, yes.
No.
It's very, very common as we go into a lot of customers, and these are billion-dollar companies, and they're tracking their rebates in Excel.
That's right. And even the pricing things that you described as well, these complex calculations, they probably have an Excel's pricing sheet, but how does that get back into the ultimate business process? That's great. So let's jump to the question of because Flintfox has been in the ecosystem for so long, Tom, and of course, I mean, you being being so tightly connected with so many things within Microsoft and the connections you have within Microsoft, how's that journey been for people, especially from the flip side, when you have other partners listening to this and thinking, gosh, should I think about a partnership with Microsoft? Can you describe the journey that Flintfox has had and your experience specifically as well on just the partnership that Flintfox and Microsoft has had for so long?
Yeah, no, so the partnership has always been really great. Like I said, I've been doing this for 20 some odd years, and that's the reason I've kept doing it, really, because the partnership has been so good over that time period. And really over the last 4 or 5 years, since Microsoft has really connected the business applications team, what I call connecting it within the true Microsoft business. Before, it kind of sat out on its own. But over the last 5 years since that's taken place, the partnership has really, really grown. And I think our ability to jointly influence business together, it's been an amazing change over that time period. So our engagement, for example, with the field sellers, if you just take the US market, it's tenfold what it would have been 5 years ago. So my team knows the sellers in each of the geographies. They know the SSPs, the account executives, the channel managers. So they're, very tightly engaged with them and what they're doing with the customers that we're targeting. So that whole model has come a long way, and it's, our business has grown really, really well for the last 2 or 3 years because of that model. But the partnership's been really good. So ISV Connect for our ISV offering, that's only been in play now for the last 2 years, but it's really starting to get traction now. I believe the awareness around it and around the ISVs that are involved in that has really picked up a lot the last 6 to 8 months. So the number of opportunities that we see coming in jointly that we can work together with the Microsoft team, that's all increased. The go-to-market activities that we have around it with the Microsoft team, I think that's driving more and more demand. And really for the ISV side of the business, that's really important, is building awareness. Microsoft, of course, is one of the biggest brands in the world, but the ISV partners aren't. So as we go through this process and we build our brand, this helps a lot in that offering. It helps to get our name out. It helps to build a confidence with the customers and with the other partners in the ecosystem.
I love it, Tom, and thank you so much for sharing those very kind words, because over a period of time when I took over the global business and we've gotten to know each other a little bit throughout this early year, just that big connection point to your comments of the exposure, not just on the marketplace, but also the tight connection that you had within the Microsoft selling community is really driving that. Because one of the things, and it's a good lead into the joint customer success stories that we'll talk about, it's amazing to see on a month-by-month basis. Internally, we have a nice global windwire that your team helps us with our global PDM to compile all this information. It's always amazing to see all the windwires coming from Flintfox every month, coming through the pipeline, coming through just to share these journeys of the joint outcomes we can deliver. So why don't you?
A lot of that's related to your team helping. So the global PDMs that we have. So Joe, specifically from your team, he's an amazing advocate for us. And, without his help, we would really struggle because Microsoft is a really large company and it's broken up into a lot of different parts. If we didn't have someone like Joe to help us navigate that and get to the right folks at the right time, it'd be really challenging. So having him, in the role he's in, I know Pat Fitzhenry that's on your team, those guys have been around for a long time and they know really well how to navigate the Microsoft internal workings, which help the partners be successful.
Yeah, you're spot on, Tom. Yeah, because when you're dealing with 100,000 plus global organization, it can get complex. Because even myself, who's been here almost 15 years, just to navigate the nuances of not just of the global team, but then each of the individual selling areas, having those partner development manager resources around the world definitely helps. So why don't we talk about, Tom, a little bit about the joint customer stories. I mean, you mentioned a few just on the outcomes you deliver, but if you can give just people listening, what are some examples that you have seen personally in these transformations, especially now with a pandemic? And it's amazing the acceleration I'm sure that you've seen in the conversations I've had with other ISVs. Sometimes it's also impacted your business in a not so good way, but also positively because customers are realizing, gosh, I need to accelerate this engagement in the business process conversation because otherwise, we can't scale and we can't deliver the things because we're not meeting people face to face. So if you can describe a little bit about what are some of the amazing customer stories that we've been able to solve together for these customers in either rebate management, pricing scenarios, or a combination of both in the couple of industries that you mentioned that you guys impact.
Yeah, for sure. So, well, and just in general, over the last year, I think what we've seen in business has picked up a lot in the last 4 or 5 months, but we've seen a couple of things that are really important to the supply chain companies. So one of those is margins. If they can improve their operating margins even by 0.5% in some companies, that's a lot of money that drops to the bottom line because it's money that they're either giving away today because they're making bad decisions on pricing or they're not claiming rebates back. So anything we can do to help a company get that money back to their bottom line it's a net pickup for them because there's no cost associated with it. So that's a big win. And anyway, over the last year, we've seen a lot of urgency around that from companies, particularly in the distribution space, but also in the retail space, because not only is the competition increasing with companies like Amazon, but they have to be much more careful now with what's going on with COVID because they have to adjust their business monthly to account for changes in the number of orders they're getting. And in some cases, they may have to change their delivery models from being business to business to consumer because the folks that were working in the offices are now working at home. So it's much more of a consumer model than it is a business to business model. And then I think the second part of it around is getting to a very digital business. We've got a number of our customers that were still heavily brick and mortars going into this past year. And they've been feverishly trying to move their business to more online or more EDI orders, as opposed to what it's been in the past, where those are going into a call center or folks are coming into stores or into a distribution center. So they've really been trying to optimize that over the last year. And so we've got a few examples. So we've got one customer that we've deployed Dynamics 365 for on the finance and operations side, or we're in the midst of doing that now. We've deployed Dynamics 365 customer engagement for them. And then we've deployed our IP as well. So really what we've tried to help them do is improve operating margins by doing better pricing and getting more rebates back from their suppliers. We've tried to help them speed up the pricing that they're getting throughout their systems, mostly which go to their website. And then we've tried to help them optimize their financial systems using Dynamics 365. So that's a big win for them in the long run because it impacts things like how quickly can they collect cash from their customers, and how well can they manage that? How can they make that more electronically versus having checks going into a lockbox and having that float delay that comes along with it. But then we've also taken it a step further and helped them on the customer engagement side and gotten to a scenario where they had calls coming into their customer service group, and it would take on average 6 to 7 minutes to solve each call. We've gotten that down to they can do a call now and get to resolution within a minute.
Wow.
And we've done that by using chat, for getting more and more info, but we've really done it by helping them get more info at the fingertips of their customer service team. So a call comes in, it's using telephony now, so it pops up the customer info right away. So they've got full visibility to the customer, what the customer's ordered recently, what invoices they have outstanding. So they can quickly get to the info now, whereas in the past they had to go to multiple, in some cases, multiple systems, but certainly multiple screens to get to that data. So really just trying to help them do better customer service, improve their financial performance, and improve what they do from an operational execution standpoint with pricing and rebate management.
Well, I mean, what an amazing story, Tom, on the journey, not just on the front office, but the back office side, because it is that journey when you think about any retailer or even wholesaler distributor. How do you handle the customer questions that are coming in, but then how do you handle the financial transactions more efficiently and that time to market much more effectively? So what would your kind of on average be like when you think about those organizations? How long are these implementations? Just to give people on watching this as they're listening, like, wow, I'd love to get that transformation. I know a lot of it depends, but what have you seen in general that kind of when someone comes to both of us, and particularly to your employees, Tom, say, gosh, Tom, like everything that you described is exactly what I want to have happen. What does that journey typically look like, depending on the complexities of what their systems are in business process, but in general, on average, what have you seen as kind of implementation to realize, like, hey, they can go live from this date to then months, whatever? What have you typically seen in these implementations?
So typically with our IP, it's about a 6-month implementation, unless we're implementing it in conjunction with them implementing Dynamics 365 at the same time. So then it would tie to whatever the timeline is for that project. But if we go into a customer that already has Dynamics implemented, or we're integrating our RMX system to their existing ERP systems, those projects typically run 5 to 6 months from the time we go in and do the business transformation work up to the point that they're fully live on the system. Okay. Some are faster, some could be a little longer depending on the business and how complex it is. But in general, it's about a 5 or 6 month implementation cycle.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Tom. Yeah, this shouldn't surprise anyone. Hopefully not surprise anyone on the phone, because when you think about all these things that have to happen, it's not something that you could just do in a week. These are very complex business processes that takes months of planning, but then execution to make sure everything actually goes to the system. So I want to go back to that question a little bit that was highlighted by someone watching from Portland, Oregon, Tom, about if you could describe about the offerings as it relates to, because people, of course, when they think about Dynamics 365, they think about our more, I would say, more enterprise versions of customer engagement in F&O. But I know that you also do things in Business Central, which is just as great of a scenario. So can you kind of talk about a little bit on the things that you do with our Business Central offering in solutions?
Yep. So it's all very similar. So we're integrated to Business Central. We actually use our RMX solution for that. Business Central came to the cloud a little later than the enterprise offering did for Dynamics 365. So since that happened, our RMX solution, we also released that a little later. We decided to use that with Business Central because we felt like it was a tighter integration and if we could help get those customers up and running faster. So that's fully integrated there from a pricing and rebate management standpoint. And then as far as implementing it, we implement Business Central for the same industries effectively that we do the finance and operations solution.
That's great. I also want to give a shout out. There's someone else who chimed in from Palm Beach, Florida, and I think it's Evan, but it shows up anonymous on the thing. So it's interesting. He's watching from Florida, just talking about all the things that they use as well, and he was appreciate him listening in on to this dialogue between Tom and I. So thanks for participating, Evan, on the conversation today. So as we wrap up, Tom, what are some of the things as people learn more? Of course, you're on LinkedIn. And people can reach out to you. How would people kind of learn? What are some of your recommendations to for people to take action if they're listening to this, especially if they're a retailer or wholesale distributor and they're like, wow, I would love to kind of learn more because we have some of these challenges. What would be some of the things you would encourage people to go do?
Yeah, so definitely visit our website at flintfox.com. We have a lot of info there around our IP offerings for trade revenue management and pricing. We also have a lot of info there around Dynamics 365 and our services offerings. You can reach out to me directly on LinkedIn. You can reach out to our sales team at sales@flintfox.com. So definitely reach out to us. We've got lots of info we can share with you. And even to the last question, Brian, that came up there, we've got a new offering that'll be coming out here in a couple of months, which is a price planning, price optimization solution, which is heavily focused around Azure machine learning. Very good offering. I think it's going to get a lot of attention in the marketplace. It's really focused on helping customers do better pricing, so helping them predict what their pricing should be that they're putting their products out to market for based on what their competitors doing, based on seasonality, based on a number of factors that they're getting data from through Azure.
That's exciting, Tom, because you think about, especially us as consumers, how quickly people go to all these different websites to see, oh, I'm buying this product. What is it priced out on all these different sites? And so that's amazing. That's really great to see Flintfox coming up with a scenario that actually can provide some that outcome and value to the customer.
Yeah, we're really excited about it. So it'll be out in the next couple of months. You'll see the announcement come out.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So the other thing I'll put up there, besides the website, we also compiled, if people aren't familiar with our marketplace, we compiled this container that not only has the website flintfox.com on it, but it also has the link to all of the amazing solutions that Flintfox has on the Microsoft App Store. So that's another place that you can go as well to learn more. So as we wrap up, Tom, any last minute comments or things you'd like to call out before we close out the LinkedIn Live session today?
Well, I appreciate your time, Brian. It's really good catching up. If I can do anything to help any of you in any way around the space that we serve, feel free to reach out to us. I'll definitely get you connected to the right people within our organization to support what you're doing. And I appreciate all the partnership on your end, Brian, from the Microsoft team. Like I said, it's an amazing partnership, and I think it's a win-win for us, for Microsoft, and for our customers.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Tom. And I truly, truly appreciate that, the journey that we've gotten together. I want to thank everyone watching, or if you watch this replay too, feel free to reach out because you probably may see this. You're not watching it live, you might be watching the replay. So please don't hesitate to reach out to Tom or myself. As I mentioned, we're here every Monday at 8 o'clock. Next week, we actually have another global ISV that's going to be talking about capabilities in the professional service space. So if you like what you see, please follow myself on LinkedIn or connect with me. Thanks again, Tom. Have an amazing week. Hopefully the sun continues to shine in Colorado because it's great to see the little sun back in the background. I'm a little jealous.
Yeah.
A little cloudy today in Seattle, but thanks again, Tom, for the time, and appreciate Flintfox's partnership.
Thanks, Brian. Have a great week.
Hey, have a great week, everybody. Take care.